Now, the main threat of ransomware, which was very easy at the beginning, was like just a single kick to the face. It was like, we've encrypted your data, and now you have to pay us. In our case, it was $800, and you're going to get your files back. And what we saw is that after a while, well, people kind of got backups, and so that wasn't really working. And this is where the ransomware groups developed the double and triple extortion, with the double extortion being that we've actually exfiltrated your files, we have a copy of them on our servers, and if you don't pay us, we're going to tell the world that we have your files, and we are going to publish them through the dark web. The third thing is, well, if people don't care about their files being online, the last thing that these groups say is, well, we're actually going to attack you over and over again, so we're going to encrypt your data all the time, we're going to DDoS you, and basically, we are here, and you're going to have to pay us for us to go away, and if you're lucky, we're never going to come back. So ransomware groups have moved from like a single threat to a multi-vector threat, and I'm going to change the slide because it's driving me crazy. But basically, the threat is significant, and it tends above and beyond just stealing the files, stealing the data, and exposing it to the internet. It also goes with DDoS and other threats for these companies, as we're going to see a bit later on. Now, the ransomware attacks are very often, or I should say too often, very quiet, so you don't necessarily hear about it. You hear about glitches in companies. That's one thing you hear all the time. You hear about cybersecurity incidents, but you never have a lot of information about what's going on in these companies. And here you have a press release that was, I believe, from Co-op in the UK, who was attacked by ransomware, and basically all they say is, something happened, we're not going to tell you anymore. And so there's really a dearth of information on these attacks. And too often, it's difficult to learn from other people's experience just because we don't hear kind of detailed debriefs of how this is going. Now, there's been quite a lot of information that has leaked, and that's been interesting. If you're looking at the leaks from the Conti, for example, we saw just, I think a few days ago, Lockbit was also hacked, and there's been a great number of papers that have been published based on these leaks. So you have all the internal working of these groups, you have their internal chats, and Estelle Ruan, who works for Flare, published a very good paper on this, analyzing this data. There's quite a few of these papers out there. Here's kind of a social network analysis of all the actors that were involved in Conti. And so these leaks are quite interesting and provide some information about how these groups work, but you don't get the whole picture, and this is where we are looking today at the ransomware chats, basically. So the data for this project doesn't come from us, so we kind of stole it, like the ransomware groups do. And so we got it from the Ransomware Live website, which actually collects thousands of conversations between ransomware groups and their victims, and they collected from all over the place. They do a relatively good job of redacting the private information of people. There's wallets that leak here or there, or names that leak here or there, but overall, they do kind of a good job of sanitizing everything. And it gives us, in one neat little package, all of the conversations from these ransomware groups and their victims that have been exchanged over time. There's quite a lot of them. They're adding them as they get submissions. I'm guessing that the Lockbit ones, the new ones, are going to be integrated into this data set later on. But it's a really great resource if you're looking for ransomware chats and inspiration. This is kind of where it happens. So the data, it's 23 ransomware groups. There's 195 ransomware chats. There's about 6,300 messages that are available on the website. And when you're looking at the stats from these companies, what they're saying is each ransomware group had about 75 victims on average. They had been around for about a year, 245 days. And one interesting thing was when you're looking at the ransom that was asked versus what was paid, there's a huge gap. So basically, on average, these ransomware groups were asking for about $3 million in a ransom, but only about 1.4 million was actually paid by these groups from the data that these guys provide. So you already see that, from the start, you get about like a 50% discount just for showing up, basically, and just asking for a discount. So you should always ask for a discount if they attack you. But basically, so we see there's kind of a widespread difference between what they're being asked and what they're actually willing to take as a payment. So we'll be just analyzing qualitatively, and I'll be showing examples of the ways that the attackers are presenting themselves, framing them, what the arguments are that they're asking for, and we'll also be looking at the victims, so how they're presenting themselves and how they're trying to negotiate for these ransoms. We also did kind of a logistic regression, and basically, logistic regression is just a way to see what has an impact on a ransom being paid or not. So we're trying to explain and understand, why are people going to pay their ransom. So I put in a bunch of guns here, and so there's a lot of variables, lots of ways to determine why someone would pay a ransom, lots of ways that you could kill someone with a gun. You have to find kind of the right gun or the right variable to explain kind of what you're looking for, and that's what I'll be presenting a bit later today. But we're looking at 6 variables, so basically how often the ransomware group gets paid. We'll be looking at how long the group has been around. We'll be looking at how long the conversation goes. So, of course, the longer you talk with someone, maybe you can negotiate something else. The proportion of all the victims, so when you're looking at the ecosystem, is it a big group or a small group? The discount that was offered, and kind of the best estimate that we could of the size of the victim. We don't have the names of the victim, but just looking at how people present themselves, we can kind of guess, is it a small or a large organization? And of course, if you have the money to hire negotiators, you're usually kind of a big organization. So these are the factors that we'll be looking at kind of in the second part of the presentation. Now, a few things that are interesting when we're looking at the chats coming from the attacker's point of view, and these are direct kind of quotes or messages, so I didn't correct them, change the grammar or anything. Hopefully there's nothing too confidential in there. But the first thing that was really interesting is that the ransomware groups do appear to be conducting their own research. So they mention the size of the victim. Even when the victim is trying to present themselves as small and unable to pay, they actually come back and they say, we've actually gone through all your files, we have your financial statements, we've looked at everything you have, and you clearly have enough money in your bank account to pay us this amount. So it's kind of interesting to see that before they even reach out and talk with the people, they're actually going to do their own research, and they're going to find out kind of what would be the best ransom that they could ask the people. The other thing, and this has kind of been an ongoing discussion, is they actually look if there's traces or if it's known if the company has insurance. So if you have cyber insurance that's going to pay if you get attacked by a ransomware attack, they'll find out, and they're really interesting in this because they'll want to find what your policy is. They'll want to know how much your insurer is willing to pay, because they know that it's going to be easier if you're not paying. Is the insurer, no one cares. It's like when you're stealing money from a bank, no one cares because, it's a bank and they're insured anyways. So it's kind of the same thing, and so they'll look into the documents and they'll try and find evidence. If you have money to pay, how much money you have, and if you have insurance. So maybe if you want to put some fake documents into your corporate documents and say you have insurance but for $1,000 maximum, maybe they'll help you out. We'll see. So before they talk with you, you have to assume that they actually know who they're talking to. And the second thing is their price will go down very, very, very quickly. As I said before, here you have an example where they went from $1 million that they were asking for a ransom down to $200,000, and that was very, very quick. So there wasn't a lot back and forth, and that's like an 80% reduction in the price of the ransom that was being asked. They'll also kind of offer you different options. So they'll say, for $250,000, we will also delete your data, but we can also accept $150,000 if you want. So they're not very hard negotiators. Basically, they have so many victims that all they want to have is just money pouring in. And they're not too careful about how much they get. And we see that you can divide it by 5, you can divide it by 2. If you pay anything over 50% when they first ask, it's probably way too much that you're paying in terms of a ransom. Now, they do offer many services. So one of the things that the ransomware groups is they promise you that they're going to tell you how they hacked into your company, so they're not going to be able to hack back in. And what we find out is that all the ransomware groups, they have this like boilerplate of how they got into your company. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but of course you have, I'm sorry, that's the next slide. Here, what I'm saying is they offer many services. So basically, what they say is they'll offer you kind of the decryptor, but they also say that they're going to tell you how they got into your company. They say they're going to give you this vulnerability assessment. It's a very bad vulnerability assessment. I would not pay for it. And they'll send you guarantees that they've deleted your data. And that's usually just a screenshot of them having a command line just saying, we've deleted your data. But of course, there could be copies multiple places. So that doesn't tell you anything. So they offer you kind of many services, and basically they will price them out for you. So depending on what you need from them, you can actually get multiple services. And of course, as you see at the bottom, all the guarantees come as a default, so that's kind of nice for them, They are big on threat, so it's really kind of the carrot and the stick in this case. So when you're talking with them, you're going to see at first they're going to be extremely nice. They're going to call you sir, they're going to be please and thank you. But if you're delaying, if you tell them, well, I have backups, I really don't care whatever you do, I'll just restore my backups and I don't care. Here you have kind of a long message, but there's going to be a lot of threats that are coming from these groups. And there's more of them. Here's another one here. But basically what they say is, well, if you don't pay us, then we're going to make your life hell, which means that we're going to DDoS you. We are going to attack you again and again and again. We're going to give you 2 weeks for your backups to be back up, and then we'll go back in, and then we'll hack you again, and we'll wipe your data once again. So they're threatening people with repeat offenses, and they also go as far as to say, well, if that's not enough, we're actually going to call your customers, we're actually going to call your suppliers, and we're going to tell them everything we've learned about them through the files that were leaked because of you, and we're going to destroy your reputation, basically. So they're willing to go kind of pretty far in terms of their threats. We don't have too many examples of actually them acting out on these threats. We've seen it once or twice in the past few months, but it's not something that's extremely common. And they even threaten by saying, we know you guys have been doing some insider trading. We've got the traces for it. We're going to expose you. So they give out a lot of threats against these companies if they have to. They're also, of course, pushing for urgency. So, they really want to do this today. And I just had to buy a new car. And listening to them talk, it was exactly like my car dealership. It's like really pushing you, like, what's the number? How can we sign today? How can we close this now? And there's a big push for urgency coming from these guys. Now, they do promise to tell you exactly, as I said before, how they got into your company. And this is kind of one of the boilerplates that we see that they share. So it's always the same thing. So either they always use exactly the same technique, or they just have this boilerplate that they share with everyone, basically. And of course, you have to start with the dark web. What threat doesn't start with the dark web, of course? And so they have all these suggestions about what you are supposed to do to protect yourself. But once again, I think this is just kind of basic, 2FA, updating your software, not using Ivanti for your VPN, and just, using strong passwords in general. And here you have another one of these kind of border plates that you can see. And basically, the hackers are just telling you kind of how to protect yourself, even though I don't think there's too much value into it, basically. Now, one of the things that was extremely interesting, though, is we all know that the hackers and these ransomware groups are now going to go after companies that are going to be in Russia, that are going to be in China, in Brazil. And one of the people that they hacked, they actually realized that they had one of their branches that was in Armenia, and they said, well, we're extremely sorry, we didn't know that you had this. We're going to decrypt everything for free. Please excuse us, we really wish we didn't do this. So I thought that was like an interesting loophole. So if you just open a branch of your company in Russia or in Armenia or in a different country, all of a sudden you become kind of excluded from ransomware groups, and they're actually going to decrypt all your data for free. So maybe that's kind of a hack that you can do. Just open a subsidiary in one of these countries or in China, and then when you get hacked, you tell them, well, actually, we are in China. Do you really want to hack us or not? So you guys let me know if that works out, if you ever get attacked. But I thought that was kind of an interesting hack that they gave out by themselves. Now, when we're looking at the victims, all the victims are playing it small. So they're going to say, you know, we are a nonprofit. People are actually going to freeze to death and die if we have to pay for this ransom. Some of them say, well, I'm just a junior IT department guy, and my boss told me I had to pay the ransom out of my own pocket. I've maxed out my credit cards. There's nothing I can do. Like, you cannot ask me to be paying you millions of dollars. And as you see at the bottom, you know, accept my proposal of $13,000. I've maxed my cards, loans, everything. I don't have any options left. So most of the victims are trying to play the card of, I'm small, or I have to pay out of this. You can't expect us to pay. That really never works, so maybe just save the work and just don't go through that if you ever get attacked. Just because, as I said before, they've done their research, they knew who they're targeting usually, and playing those excuses are not really going to work. A lot of the companies were trying to stall for time, so trying to figure out, do we need to pay? Can we actually get out of this for free? Can we rebuild with our backups? Do we actually need to pay the ransom? And this got the ransomware groups pretty angry. Some people were really kind of cavalier, and they were just like, do whatever you want, we don't care. And that's when the threats came in. So some of these companies were just stalling for time, waiting to see if they could get out of it. There were some really interesting examples. You're not going to have time to read through this. But some people really tried to build a bond with their aggressors. It's like the Stockholm Syndrome, where they would just tell them kind of what they felt and like what they were going through. And they were trying to build this rapport with the ransomware groups, trying to explain to them, oh, you know, my life has been miserable. I'm trying to fight for you, but my company doesn't want to pay, and I'm really on your side. And there's a lot of these. Oh, is my microphone? Oh, okay, no, good. You know, I took a big chance. My neck is on the line for real here. I rode out to meet some very rough people to solve the Bitcoin problem. And so apparently they just had to buy the Bitcoin in the streets because you can't buy that online now. So basically, they're trying to build this bond with the ransomware groups to try and get kind of out of it. Some of them will be playing down the threat, so that's what really pissed off the ransomware groups. So they're saying, like, we don't care what you do, like, we have backups, we're bulletproof, and we're going to get over this no matter what you do. And that was maybe not the best technique that people could use. Some people try to get a discount. They said, well, we only need this one database. Can we get it for like 15K, for example? Never a good idea to tell them what's your most valuable data. So don't do that, or maybe just say, ask for something else, and then say, hey, how about you throw in this database for free? Maybe go through that. That would be kind of better. And I'm not going to have time to get into all of this, but it was really interesting because you could see when there was professional negotiators going back and forth and getting into this conversation. These guys were kind of slow, but there was kind of disrespect between the negotiators that were hired to negotiate the ransom with these companies, but that will be for another talk. Quantitative analysis, there wasn't a lot that was too interesting, but basically what made people pay the ransom, why people paid the ransom, there was kind of two factors that stood out. First of all, it was kind of the reputation and the success rate of the ransomware groups. So basically, if it's a known group that's attacked a lot of people and that got a lot of press, people tended to pay more for it. And the second thing was just the ransom. So the smaller the ransom gets, the better the odds of people paying. And so these were kind of the two driving factors for this. Now, main takeaways. There's two kind of questions I want to go over as I finish this talk. First of all is, do you really have the option to pay? So when you're reading these chats, what the ransom group says is, we are not going to quit until you pay us. We're going to DDoS you. We're going to talk to your customers, to your suppliers. We're going to make your life hell if you don't pay us. And so the main question is, are you not paying because you have backups? Okay, but maybe you're going to have a lot more problems. And in the end, is it just straight up extortion and you just have to pay for this? That's the main question. The second thing, and that's the real one to me, is what is really the impact of the publication of data through the dark web. I don't know if you guys have tried downloading these massive archives of corporate data, but very often they're going to be a few terabytes in size, and you download this at like 26K per second. So it takes like weeks to download anything, and very often it's not all that juicy. So even though there is a theoretical threat, I'm always amazed at how little we hear. Like, we never see like the scandals of, oh, like X corporation was hacked, its data was leaked through the dark web, and we went through the files. Like, you never hear journalists doing that. And so the main question is, okay, so you're publishing my files on the internet, fine, but no one can actually download them because the connection speed is so slow. And even if you did, is there really anything that juicy in there? In most cases, that's probably not the case. And so when you decide to pay or not, the question is, even though the theoretical threat is there a real threat that's going to be in there? Now, you do have to be careful about your financial statement, so maybe put some fake files about how poor your company is all over your share drive, just so that when you get hacked, well, they don't know how much money you have. The pleas for pity rarely, if ever, work. So basically, even when you're trying to say that you are kind of too poor, too small to pay for ransom, that doesn't work. So I hope this was interesting. There's more chats that were just leaked with Logbit, so we can extend this project even more. And I believe I have like 2 minutes left for questions. This is, if you want to contact me, scan this in all safety, as always. And once again, if you guys are interested by these conferences, do attend B-Sides this fall. And I think I have a minute left for questions, so if anyone has one, please raise your hand, and I'll be happy to answer it. If not, well, you guys have a great day. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you guys around. Cheers.